Welcome back to Digital Wandering, and I have here the Blackview BV9500, which is a rugged smartphone with a huge battery of 10,000 milliamp hours. So this is the biggest battery that I've ever used on a smartphone, and it's part of my collection that I really like. I've been using it a lot since I first got this in late 2018, I think November 2018. And for a while, it was my main smartphone. It's running the Android operating system, and it has the Audrey Tautou wallpaper that you've seen on so many of my devices. Let's just look at it here. And actually, I'm going to just shut it off for a second, or just put it in sleep so that we can see it a little better. Now, I think there are other smartphones that have this design. When I first heard of a similar smartphone from a YouTube reviewer, and when I went looking for that smartphone, I couldn't find it, but I found the Blackview, which had like the same design language. So I think this is made in China, and there's different companies that's licensed this design of phone. Weird thing is, after I got this, I think I got it on Amazon, and it may even still, I'm pretty sure it's still listed. I don't know if it's still for sale on Amazon. It wasn't shown on the Blackview website. I think the Pro model was. So you have the BV9500, the standard model, which I have here. And then there's also like a Pro model, which has slightly larger specs. But I went with the standard because it was less expensive. Very rugged, hard plastic and metal, really firm to the touch, and feels like it could take a lot of damage. Now, I don't have any scratches or anything on mine, never had any major drops, but it just seems like it will really hold up. I think it probably will give you as much protection as you would get from a normal smartphone with just a heavy-duty case. But in this case, in this situation, you don't have to worry about getting a heavy-duty case. The phone itself is the heavy-duty case, so you know it's like almost kill two birds with one stone situation here. Let's just look at it here. Has a lot of function buttons on the side, and I'll talk about that. So you have power. This one says, let's see if we can get that focused here. You may not be able to see it, but this is a PTT button, which I forget what PTT stands for, but I'll put it in the description. But it's like a walkie-talkie type function. And the one thing is that this phone at the top, it had I might still have it somewhere. I never used it, but there was like an antenna that you could attach to this. And then you needed to download like a walkie-talkie app. And it provided, I guess, communication with other compatible apps or devices where you wouldn't have to use your data plan. So there was that. So you have the volume up and down, that button that we just discussed. And on the other side, you have power, Fingerprint Reader, and then this button, I forget what this was mapped to when I first got this, but you could map this button down here and to anything else. So for the longest, I had it mapped to my music app, so I could press this, but you can map it to your camera. You can do anything you want with this button. You can change it in the settings. Also has wireless charging capabilities and NFC, FM radio. It can actually connect to FM radio, which you know I like that. Has the cameras on the back, a triple camera setup here. And another thing here, back here is where you would actually put the SD card and the SIM. So it also has SD card compatible expandability. Now, in order to get into where the SIM card and the SD card are. It's behind this plate here, and these screws that you have here, this device comes with a screwdriver, so you actually have to use a screwdriver to unscrew this in order to get to this where you have the SD card and the SIM card. One thing, and once you get inside it, the SIM card holder is so unusual. I've never seen a SIM card holder like that before. I even went online to see how do you actually put a SIM card in there. I eventually figured it out on I think I had to figure it out on my own because I'm not sure if I was able to find either anything on the web to explain how to put a SIM card in there. But I was able to do it, and it worked. A lot of people online were saying that their SIM cards weren't working in here. I think they just put it in wrong because it's a very unusual SIM card holder. I won't be opening this because it does come with a screwdriver that you use to get in this, and I would have to dig out the screwdriver. I've only opened this up once or twice, and one of the things I was really worried about is stripping these screws because it seemed like it was very hard to open it and tighten it, especially the first time. The second time it wasn't as bad, but I was really worried about stripping these screws. So I won't be opening that, although I will have to eventually because of an issue that I had with the SD card recently, which I may talk about a little later on. So what you get is a rugged smartphone, very rugged smartphone with a huge 10,000 milliamp battery, and that's the main star of the show here, that huge battery. I will say from that huge battery, you get at least 20 hours of video playback. Probably more than that. It's really hard to measure. And by video playback, I'm talking about videos saved on the device. Streaming would be a lot less because streaming definitely uses a lot more battery than videos or any other type of media that's saved locally. But yeah, media that's saved locally, at least 20 hours or more. It's just amazing, this battery. It also has 64 gigabytes of, on the standard model, of internal storage. So that's really good for most people. I like to have a lot more than that, but yeah, it does also have the SD card expansion, so you can definitely take advantage of that. Now, also you see the speaker here on the back, which is not the greatest place for it, but there it is. What are some of the drawbacks with this device? Well, the size for some people, it is very blocky, very heavy. I'm able to utilize this. I can put this in the pocket. In the pocket, it is very heavy, so certain pants, it may not be comfortable to put this in the pocket. I can kind of get away with it, but I can really think that a smaller person, this would not be something that's really comfortable for them to carry around in any pocket. So you may have to just have this, almost like when you have a tablet, you may have to have this in a bag or something to be comfortable carrying it around with you. Another thing that's strange here, it does have a headphone jack, which is great normally. But let me see if I can grab some headphones here. And I didn't plan this, but I do have some within reach. If I can just get it here. Okay, there we go. Now the headphones, there were headphones that came with this, and they work perfectly. They fit perfectly, and they actually were pretty decent headphones. But I washed them. I left them in a pocket in one of my pants, and I washed them, and they stopped working after that, obviously. And so I had to use alternate headphones, and that's where the problem comes in, because this is like a proprietary headphone jack. Let me see if I can just show what happens here. Now, okay, so I just put in these headphones, and as you see, they hang. They don't go in all the way. The headphones that came with this were flush. They connected without this waist here. So you can try to put it in there, and it just won't go in all the way with any other standard headphones other than the ones that came with this. And the problem with this will work, so you'll be able to listen to music, but it often falls out very easily. So just in normal use, it'll just pop out all the time. So it was very annoying with this. I tried to go online and try to find Blackview headphones that would work with this. And despite looking for headphones that listed this model number, they still didn't work. They still hung out like that. So that was a major problem. Another issue are the buttons that I showed here. The buttons, especially on this side, they extend all the way from here all the way to the end. And then you have this button here in the middle, here on the other side. There's no place to hold on to the phone comfortably. Any place you grab, you're going to be right around the button or the fingerprint reader. So you're constantly touching one of the buttons or the fingerprint reader all the time. So you're constantly launching things that you don't want. So I deactivated this first since I didn't have any use for this function. That's pretty cool. But eventually, because of all the times I was opening the phone by accident by pressing the fingerprint reader, or another thing that happens with the fingerprint reader, if another part of your finger or body touches it, it registers that as a false attempt to open the phone. So then when you try to open it, it says, well, you've incorrectly applied your fingerprint too many times, so now you have to use the whatever other way, passcode or pattern, whatever you ask. So it constantly was mistakenly activating the fingerprint reader. That was happening all the time. And then also this button here that you can map to other functions, I was constantly touching that by accident and launching my music player, which is what I mapped this button to. This is no place to hold the phone. The buttons are everywhere. So that was a major problem too. So the only way I can comfortably use this phone is by deactivating the fingerprint reader, deactivating this specialized button here, deactivating this. So I was left with just the power and volume. Another thing here is the camera. The camera on this was one of the least satisfying cameras that I've ever used on a smartphone. It just did not show a lot of detail with the photos that I was taking with this. Very blurry photos, especially indoors and in low light situations. Also a very basic camera app for an Android phone. So it just wasn't satisfying with the photos, despite the triple camera setup. Just wasn't a satisfying camera for me. Another thing is in startup, not a huge problem, but it often would crash when I would start up the phone. So it would give me an error message. Normally, all I had to do is shut it down and start it back up again. I've encountered that on a few other Android phones, but not as often as this. This shut down a lot. Crashed a lot on startup. The big battery here. Now, when I got this phone, it came with a charging brick. And when I was attempting to charge this device, it would not charge with the charging brick. You would see that it was detected. It would show the lightning bolt like you see on the battery icon that showed that it was charging, but no matter how long I would have it connected, it would never charge up completely. It would just be charging extremely slow. So at first I thought it was an issue with the phone, but then I would connect it to a standard charger and it would charge up. It would be slow, but it would charge up all the way. So the charging brick that came with this did not work. So I mostly used this with a standard charger. Now, this 10,000 milliamp battery, it would take at least 8 hours, probably more than that, maybe 8.5 hours, to charge this from 0 to 100%. So, although it's excellent to have a huge battery, and in most situations where, I've been in a lot of situations, I don't know about you, where I needed to use my phone extensively, but I was nowhere near an outlet to charge up my device. So in utilizing my phone a lot, at some point during that day, I would lose I would lose battery altogether. So one of the things that attracted me to this phone is that it would allow me to use it a lot without actually at any point during the day losing my entire battery power. Always having the ability to know that I could get through the day no matter how often I use this phone. I could get through the day with some battery power left over. So that's the beauty of this. So in situations where, say if you're going camping for the weekend, you charge this up to 100% and you use it, you can use this throughout the entire weekend and still have battery left over. I mentioned travel situations. I've been in situations where I'm going from bus to walking to the airport or wherever else, and I'm constantly on the move and I'm nowhere near an outlet, and I have to use maybe Google Maps a lot. During days like that, you need a device that's going to be able to handle all that usage and still have battery left over. You need it, so you're going to need the phone to do other things other than the travel requirements. So having a big battery like this is great, but the problem is when you hit zero on this or close to zero and you need to charge this back up, you need up to 8 hours of time. So at some point, if you're using this a lot, you're going to get to a point where you're going to need to be near an outlet, at least like overnight. You need to be able to plug this in before you go to bed and let it charge all night, and then when you wake up the next day, it's all ready to go for you. If you're not in that situation, then this phone becomes a liability because you cannot just like casually charge this up in a coffee shop or at McDonald's or something. You're not going to be there for 8 hours. So that's one issue with this, that it's great for the giant battery that it provides, but when this thing is completely out of battery, you need to be near an outlet for an extended period of time to charge it back up, especially if you have a standard charger. So that is so it's like a gift and a curse, this giant battery. Let me think. There's some other things here about the device. And you know, my videos are not scripted, so I always go off the top of the dome here when I'm talking about these phones. Another thing here, software. So, you know, the software on here, it has its own skin of Android, it has its own apps. Most of the apps that are included here I did not use, and you cannot delete them. So a lot of old school looking apps for the Android skin that this device uses. There was no update, so, or very few. I can't say there were none. So this is on Android Oreo, which came out in 2017. So I got this in 2018. Still has Oreo on there. And the security patch did not get any security updates with this phone. So it was kind of stuck on the version of the security patch version. Well, actually, I think I might have got 1 or 2 security patches, but not many. Because there were a few updates that were sent from Blackview, the company. Only a few, I think, over the first 6 months of me having this phone. So I never got an update beyond 2019. So the security patch level only, it was only a few security patches that were bundled in the update sent by Blackview. So there wasn't a lot of support from Blackview. So the only updates you're really going to get on this phone, for the most part, outside of a few from the company, is going to be through the Google Play Store. So the Google Play Store is, so you're going to be able to get your installed apps from Google that you downloaded from the Play Store, or the standard Google apps that are part of the operating system. You're going to be able to update those through the Play Store, but that's it. The OS itself is going to be just stuck on Oreo for the length of time that you're going to be using this. So again, this is 2018 phone, and it's 2021 now. 4 gigabytes of RAM. You do have the Pro model. The Pro model for the BV9500. This has 4 gigabytes of RAM. The Pro model has 6 gigabytes of RAM. This came with 64 gigabytes of internal storage. The Pro model, I think, has 128 gigabytes of internal storage. I think it also has a stronger processor, more processing power. So you do get some additional things with that Pro model that may be worth it over this. I'm not sure if the Pro model has a different camera setup. I'm not aware of that. So that may also be a plus with the Pro model. And who knows, maybe it got more updates, but I'm not sure about that. Blackview has a lot of phones. They have, other than the 9500 model, the Pro and the Standard, I don't know if they made any other 10,000 milliamp hour phones. So that's an issue. There's not a lot of 10,000 milliamp hour phones on the market, at least sold in North America. So it's a slim category. So it's not a lot. I was hoping that there will be more releases with 10,000 milliamp hour, but I don't see them. And I'm not aware of everything that's released. There's so many Android phones that are being released, but I just don't see them. One thing good is that you're seeing a lot more 5,000 milliamp hour phones, which used to be scarce as well. But now a lot of the major manufacturers are coming out with 5,000 milliamp hour phones. For a while, it was only Blue, Motorola, and Asus. Those are the only phones in North America that were often coming with 5,000 milliamp hour phones, smartphones. Although you're seeing now, I think for the last few years, you're now seeing them with Samsung has phones of that. OnePlus just released a 5,000 milliamp hour phone, although it was one of their budget releases. Their flagships are commonly coming with 4,000 milliamp hours, so they're getting up there. So the big batteries are coming, but I don't know how long it's going to be before we see a big battery phone on 10,000 milliamp hour on a legit flagship. We may never see that. But yeah, this is an interesting part of my collection. One other thing I do want to mention about the SD card. So I will have to reopen that again because very recently the SD card died on this device. I had no issues with it since 2018, but now it's corrupted in some way, and all the data that I had on there is just gone. So that's a bummer. So I'll have to open that up, and if there's not anything, hopefully it's just that SD card. It's not something else with the phone that caused damage to the SD card. I did mention that it's crashing, or it's always crashed a lot. So I don't know if one of those crashes corrupted the SD card. So I might be apprehensive in putting another SD card in here because I never had that issue before where an SD card actually, let me just think, had that ever happened before where an SD card crashed on one of my devices and stopped working? I can't really think about it right now. I did have some other situation with an SD card not working, but it wasn't working almost from the time I purchased it, where this one worked fine for 3 years. But yeah, this is the Blackview 9500 BV9500. So hey, if you have any other information out there about 10,000 milliamp hour phones, hey, put it in the comment section. I would love to hear about it. But thank you for watching. This is Digital Wandering signing off.